We talked about a lot today. One of the things I was curious, and I don't know myself, is how does someone say, I want to make belts, I want to make motorcycle seats, I want to make, leather. How did you? Because it's not just something you just walk into, is it?
Well, for me, it was that's kind of the answer is like a little bit of a yes and no. Sometimes it's tough for me to talk about it because it was a point in my life where when you hit rock bottom, you know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of people are used to taking risks when you're at bottom,
Right.
Because there's no safety net. But sometimes some people need no safety net, When we got started doing this, or prior to starting doing this, I had a really successful business. And we were doing the murals and stuff. I mean, I'd walk into a house and I didn't have to ask for money. I didn't have to bid for it. It was just I had built a connection with the right people that I could walk into a house and they'd say how much, and I'd tell them, and then they'd write me a check. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous at that time. Right. So for me, I was too young with too much money to not recognize that I needed to do something with it and not just spend it on toys and stuff. But one of the things that got me ahead was whenever we would finish doing a job, I would offer to do stuff for free as long as it didn't take away from anybody's, putting food on the table.
Right.
So I would install baseboards and stuff like that, or whatever, right? Handyman stuff, and just for free, materials, everything. And that got my name around. But what wound up happening is the market crash is I wound up going from the heights of an artist who's creatively building stuff for gobs of money to being a handyman. And I was doing whatever it took to survive.
Right.
Okay. And what that also meant, especially now being a new father, was we barely had enough to get by. Like literally, we would work up to zero by the first. Everything I earned would go to rent or diapers or whatever, right? It literally, we would be zeroed out on the first. And after years of that starting to happen, for me, I started to lose hope. I started to become depressed, like a lot. It was very difficult because I'm thinking, man, I'm a new husband. I'm already now a new father. And I can't imagine leading my family in a way of hopelessness, when my kids are gonna get raised to see their dad be a handyman. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, because my dad's also done really well being a handyman. What I'm saying is that's not who I am, and that's not who I want my kids to see. I'm not saying being a handyman is wrong. I'm saying that there's something in me that I know about myself that needs to be pointed in the right direction. Because there's one thing I definitely learned is if you are going to do the thing that you hate to do and continue to do that, you're guaranteed failure. If you are going to chase after your passion, then you will find that if you do it recklessly and chase after it with everything you have, that all the doors that you were trying to beat down doing the thing you were hating to do but hoping would turn out, that never opened for you, will now effortlessly open for you.
Wow.
Okay? So artwork, the art part of me is why I was succeeding, right? Because there was a part of my passion that I was excelling in. And once that fell away and I was just doing whatever I could to survive, well, then survival kicked in, but I wasn't doing anything that was feeding the heart inside of me, the passion and the drive. It was dying.
So you were just doing what you had to do
to get by.
To get by, minus your actual gift.
Yes, exactly. So there was a lot of months and days and weeks where I was spent on my hands and knees praying to God for a way out, for something to change. Like every month, it was just crazy, just always praying. And I remember that I had this weird innate desire to learn more about leather. Not crazy, but I would go into a store. It's called the Indian store. It's over here in San Marcos. And there in the back of the store, they have this place where they just have like leather stuff. And for whatever reason, as really cool as they have a store, I was always attracted to that part of the store. Don't even really know why, but I just love looking at the chemicals and the paints and the bones and the stuff and the whatevers and the tools. It was just really attractive to me. Right. Could not explain it. So I go to church one day, and this dude is doing the singing and the worship and all this, and he says, "Hey man, before you leave church today, I want to talk to you." I was like, "Cool. I want to share with you. I had a little vision about you, and I hope it encourages you." I'm like, "Oh man, I could really use some encouragement right now." So he says, "The first thing I saw while we were singing and doing worship and stuff is I saw you exhausted, frustrated, sweat coming off your face, and you just looked down, like depressed. And there were all these little fires popping up all over the place, and you'd run to one and you'd stomp it out, and you'd be exhausted, and then another one would pop up. You'd run to that one, you'd stomp it out, and like that." And I was like, And that started speaking to me, because that's how I felt. At the end of every month, that was my fire, and I'd stomp it out, but then it would pop in again, right? I'd have it pop up again. So then finally, he says, "But this is what I saw for you. I saw you on a boat in the ocean with the sail, and you were only one on the boat, but there was no wind, and you were depressed." He said, and then I saw you were in the same boat, but there was wind in the sails. You were standing on the front of the boat like Captain Morgan does on the bottle, right? Yeah. And you were pointing because you had direction, and the boat was filled with so much wind that it was almost skipping across the water. You were just moving effortlessly. He said, "I want you to stay focused, because God's going to breathe new life into you. He's going to breathe something amazing into your direction. Just stay with it." So I go home. The very next day is Monday. I have no jobs in sight. We have about 2.5 weeks to pay rent and almost no money in the bank account right now, right? I've had no jobs yet.
But your faith and your belief is keeping you.
My faith was keeping me in the struggle and moving forward, but my depression was really becoming a weight around my neck, right? So on this Monday, something came over me. I had no work for myself, no jobs to go to, and I decided to go to the Indian store. And I walk in there, and all of a sudden this feeling welled up inside me, right? And I walk in there, and there's this guy, his name's Dave. And I said, "Dave, I can't take it anymore. You've got to show me how to use these tools. I don't care what tools they are. I don't care. I need something. Just show me something so I can get started." So he goes, "Well, you needed some vegetable tan leather. It's that raw leather that we do the artwork in." So I was like what? And he goes like, "Well, there's some over there in those bins." And they sold scraps for different prices. So I grabbed it, ran to the front, paid for it, came back to the back. And they had like a format table, kind of like this one, but a little bit taller. And he goes, "So the next thing you need to do is draw something in the leather while it's wet, right?" I said, "Okay, with what?" He goes, "Well, all I have is a ballpoint pen." So I said, "Okay." So I draw like the stupid little skull and some other thing on there. And he hands me 2 tools. Not 2 tools that should go together, right? From my perspective now.
Right.
Not 2 tools. Yeah, knowing that now, these are not the 2 tools you'd put together to make a design, right? So he hands me a mallet, he gives me these tools, and he goes, "Okay, so I guess you kind of like pound the design out around your lines and stuff." And I said, So I got down on my hands and knees, like literally on the corner of the table, and I just start doing my thing.
Right.
Well, I was so focused on it that everybody who was in the store started hearing the noise, and they came to where I was tooling. And so I look up, and I look at Dave. I was like, "Dave, I think I'm done." Right? And this dude behind me is like, "Oh my God, man, that's amazing. How long have you been doing leather for?" And I'm like, "Right now, like right this very second, right? I've been doing it this long." And it was like this excitement welled up inside me, right? And there's, I don't know, 6, 7 people behind me. They're just amazed. So this is the very first piece I did, right here.
Wow. They did that in the store?
I did that in the store, and I cut it out, and I was like, I'll make a keychain out of it or something. That was the very first piece I ever did.
Dude, that's pretty impressive. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we'll get Julio to get a good shot of it a little bit. Wow.
First time I ever touched leather was that right there.
So how can you ever get worse than that? You can't. That's fucking good, dude.
So then the next thing I did was I walked over to Dave after everybody had kind of had freaked out about this. I was like, Dave, how do I get like tools? Where do I get more? Because they didn't have very much. He goes, well, we get all of our stuff from a place called Tandy Leather. I was like, where is that? Like Alabama or Texas? He goes, no, there's one not too far from here, about like an hour south. I was like, shut up. So then he calls, and I get on the phone. I was like, how long are you guys open for? They're like, we're open for about another hour and 20 minutes. I was like, no way. So I jump in my car, I haul ass straight down there, right? And I walk in there, and there's this one commercial. And when Circuit City, remember that store, Circuit City?
Yeah.
There's this one commercial from Circuit City where it was like a holiday commercial, I think. And where the husband and wife walk into Circuit City, the husband is like deer in headlights, right? Because he's seeing all the electronics he wants.
Yeah.
And then the wife is just like, oh God. And then all of a sudden she turns to her husband. He's already took off like a deer got shot, right? And hits some employee, papers go flying up, and he's just, wah! And he's like running through the whole store, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was me at that moment.
Wow.
I walk in, the wafting of the air, it was like warm air in the store, just hit me, man, like a brick. Just right in the face, and that leather smell. I was instantly in, like I was just in it.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around, I'm looking at all these tools and the leather, and it's everywhere, just walls of it. Well, as I'm walking around, I'm getting so excited. Instantly met with the feeling of defeat. Remember, I have had no jobs.
Right.
I have very little money sitting in the bank right now, and I have about 2.5 weeks to pay rent. I start looking, and I look at all the prices of all this stuff. And I'm like, oh no, I can't afford this stuff. That's it. That's it. That's it for me, right there. And then, as I was looking around, I started to have this little idea. It started to happen in the pit of my stomach. And I walk outside, and I call my wife, and I said, babe, how much money we got in the account right now? She's like, I think like $586 and some change. She goes, why? And I said, well, I need you to trust me. And I don't want to explain myself, but I just want you to trust me right now. And she says, okay. I said, well, I need you to take it, and I need you to move it all over to the checking card. And she said, okay. So I get off the phone, she sends me a text, says it's done. So I walk inside, and I asked the lady behind the desk, I was like, can you show me some things real quick? She goes, what do you need? I was like, show me some things, like basic things that I would need to just get started. Like if I wanted to like make bracelets, or I don't know, whatever. So she starts showing me a few things. Well, you're gonna need this tools, and you're gonna need this snaps and this and that, whatever. And it's already like just calculating in my head, it just starts to spiral out of control. And she's like, and you're gonna need like a hide of leather, and that's like $300 or whatever, $200. I don't have that. So I just started going like, okay, well, can you sell me these scraps? She's like, I'm not allowed to sell you scraps. I was like, but can you sell me these scraps? Can you please? So I started putting all this stuff together on the tables. $586.40, something around that.
Yeah.
That's what it added to.
Wow.
Gave her my card and I paid for it. So I went home with a bag of groceries. I'm not kidding you. $586 filled a grocery bag of scrap leather and parts to make bracelets. And I went home and I showed my wife that. And I had buyer's remorse all the way home because I literally spent everything on this. And she goes, so what did all of our money just get us? And I said, this. And it was just a bag, a small paper bag of stuff. And she went back into the room and she cried for like 2 hours. and my stomach just fell because here I have a baby daughter. It's just barely a year old, and my son.
Were you sitting there thinking, man, was this the right choice? Was this the right decision?
Questioning myself all the way, like, how could I have done this to my family? What was I thinking?
Right.
Man, I screwed it up again. Here I go again, being the big dreamer. And I got down on my hands and knees, man. I didn't even know what to think. What was I gonna do? I started praying again, praying. Lord, I need a job. I need something. Give me something. So in the meantime, I'm like just head first and waist deep into learning everything I could about leather. How to do it, how to like read about it, how to use the tools, the swivel knives, everything like was insatiable. I had a hunger that could not be quenched. And in the meantime, about 2 days later, my landlord calls me up and says, AJ, you still doing that handyman work? I was like, yeah. He's like, I may need you for something. I was like, cool. Well, hey, listen, Q, about that, I need to talk to you about the rent. I'm probably gonna be pretty late on the rent this time. He goes, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about that. We'll work that out. I said, well, what's going on? He goes, I have a flood in the house and I need someone I can trust in this house right now to start helping me get all the damage out of the house. He goes, when are you available? Like tomorrow or next week? I said, dude, I'm available right now.
Right now.
So I loaded up my truck and I shot down to that job. By the time we got to about the 5th of the month, right? We totaled up all my hours. I paid my rent and I had an extra $500 or $600 left over to pay for diapers and food and get through the next part of the month. After that had happened, I got my first phone call from some friends and they said, hey man, I heard you were doing leather. Yeah? Like, would you like to come down and do our first bike wash? I was like, sure. What do I need? They're like, well, you're gonna need a table and you're gonna need like a little canopy or something. And you know, that should be enough. And you can be like a vendor. I'm like, okay. So I get off the phone, I call my mom, like, hey mom, like someone wants me to be a vendor at one of their motorcycle events, but I don't have a canopy and I don't have enough to pay for it. She goes, son, how about this? I'll buy the canopy, but you pay me back. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I went to Target and she bought the canopy for me. It was like a $70 Ozarks Trail canopy. Yeah. I went and I got a folding table I borrowed from somebody and I took my bag of scraps, the knowledge that I had learned, and I went down to this bike show and I was trying to learn how to set rivets and I was making bracelets right there on the spots with the scraps.
At your first show?
At the first show.
Wow.
Right there. And so I gave my first 2 of them away. Gave one to the lady who worked inside as the bartender and one of the girls from you know, the guys that ride in that motorcycle club. And that bartender, man, she was slanging for me.
Really?
As soon as that thing started, bro, she's like, hey, I got another girl out here who wants a bracelet like mine. And I physically would make it and size it right there on the spot. And then she's like, how much, sweetie? I'd be like, $10.
Hell yeah.
No way, $10? Yeah.
It's even better when they think it's a still like that.
Yeah, and then like, I was like, tell all your friends if you haven't. She's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend's coming down right now, right? So by the end of the day, it wasn't a lot. But by the end of the day, I went home with $80 that I hadn't had prior to that day. And that was the day where Redbeard Leather was born and hope was put back in my stomach. I wasn't depressed anymore. I had hope. And that is the difference to me between all of this. Like, how does somebody get started? You get started, you take the next step. You let fear fall away and you step into what you're passionate about. Because one thing I know for sure is that you're guaranteed failure doing the things that you hate to do.
Right, 100% agree.
100%, I know that. And ever since I've opened up and chased my passion, I get to sit down with some of the most exhilarating people I've ever met in my life. I got to meet you. I've got to meet some people that are in the industry that I can't even believe where I'm at. There's no way I could have imagined if you would have said to me 8 years ago, you're going to be sitting in the middle of the industry and you're going to be able to do and interact with people that you have only dreamt of interacting with or just read in the magazines about, that's the people that you're going to be sitting in the circle with. Wow. I would have been like, you're a liar. But that's where I'm at.
Hard work pays off. I know a lot of people don't like this saying. Do dreams come true?
If you have enough faith to overcome the fear of chasing after that dream, then yes, they do. Because dreams really can become a reality. They really can, because I really honestly believe if you put your mind to it and you walk it out faithfully, it will manifest for you. 100%.
There it is. AJ,
Yeah.
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
You are truly living the king life. You guys, thank you once again for tuning in into Tales of a King. Big Bob, King Life.